Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Better Call Saul, Season 5, Episode 10, Something Unforgivable. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Better Call Saul, so I have to start with a spoiler warning for Better Call Saul up to Season 5, Episode 10. If you haven't seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise you're going to be spoiled. So you shouldn't be watching a review about an episode you haven't seen. Anyway, so this is the season, not series, season finale of Better Call Saul. And I maybe had my expectations a little high, so I was a tad bit disappointed, even though this is not a bad episode, not at all. It's quite a good episode, actually. Probably one of the better episodes of the season. Not the best, unfortunately, which is what I was hoping for. I was actually hoping for a more of a sense of finality to it, even though I knew that there would be another season. I think the ending I wouldn't describe as a cliffhanger, but is not as conclusive as I would have liked it to be. It seemed to be mainly setting up, like this whole episode seemed to be mainly setting up for the next season, which will definitely come. I'm just saying this, I don't know if you heard, but there's been speculations that there will be no Season 6 of Better Call Saul because of coronavirus. Now, filming of Season 6 was supposed to start in, I believe, February, March. I haven't been able to find anything out, but most likely it's been stalled because of coronavirus, but I'm pretty sure it will resume as soon as this is all taken care of. But some people are speculating, oh, well, they're not even going to do Season 6 now. It's going to be postponed indefinitely because of coronavirus. Which, I don't know, if things never return back to normal, then I think your least of your worries is Better Call Saul. But I don't really see that nightmare scenario happening, so I'm expecting there to be Season 6 of Better Call Saul. In fact, there damn well fucking better be, because this ended very, as I said, not so much a cliffhanger, but very much not conclusive. Everything's still up in the air, so to speak. So, let's get into this episode. So, let's start with the Jimmy stuff, because this is interesting. Jimmy and Kim, they're freaked out over Lalo leaving and seeing Kim like looking through that little peephole, and they're all freaked out, and they watch Lalo's car drive away. Like that makes sense, even though like as big of a show that Kim put on by telling Lalo off, it's obvious that she was scared out of her wits. And I actually think the actress was absolutely amazing, and she did a really great job in the last episode, sort of portraying that even though she was like sticking up for him and like giving him what for, she was scared out of her wits, and you could tell it was a great performance. So their reaction here, where they're just like scared out of their minds, like, is he gone? Is he gone? Like, that's great. Like that's exactly the type of behavior that you would expect from these people, and that they're really never had to deal with anything like this before, and they're completely scared. And so Mike is still on the phone, so Saul talks to him and says, did you hear all that? And Mike's like, I heard enough to know that she just saved your ass. Which is an interesting way to put it, because Mike said it. I tend to believe that that's the case, and that's what the show's trying to tell us. It wasn't really how I saw it in the previous episode. I saw that she was putting them more at risk, which could be true, but you kind of see his point now that Jimmy wasn't doing it. He was freezing. And that's something I talked about in the sort of the bonus features for last week's episode, of how Saul is usually great at like talking his way out of anything, even in Better Call Saul times, because you saw in the very first season he was able to talk Tuco down from killing this dude, which is brought up this season. So he's really good at talking himself out of situations, but he's so traumatized by recent events and so terrified of Lalo that he just froze and he wasn't able to do it. So Kim's kind of had to take over, and she did the same sort of thing, as I said, that She did with Chuck in an earlier season, although, as I mentioned, it was a hell of a lot riskier with Lalo. But Mike, his assessment is that Kim saved him. So they're all freaked out, though. And I think it's really interesting, though, is that Saul immediately tells Kim, because she's like, who the hell are you talking to? She immediately tells her everything. Pretty much, I mean, he didn't go into gory detail about how many people, how the dudes were about to kill them, and how there was a whole bunch of people with machine guns, and he saw people getting killed right in front of them, and the firefighting shown, and how much he was very skimpy on the details of how they were stranded. The car broke down, they were stranded in the desert for a long time with no food supplies, and that this guy was driving around in a truck trying to kill him. He kind of gave a really truncated version, which wasn't dishonest, but it didn't go into all the details of how hard his situation was. But I think it was enough for Kim to understand the hell that he'd been through. And of course, as we know, she already suspected there was more to the story because she saw the cup that was shot up. So she's not really surprised. And of course, it would explain a lot more his recent behavior of having PTSD. And she was very supportive, giving him a hug, and they both decided that they should go to a hotel. Now, she expected them to go to like a hotel, Motel 6 or something like that, but they went to a really, really fancy hotel. And the next day, Saul wants to get room service, go to a spa, or go to the pool and relax and everything. And Kim is like, nah, she's going back to work. She's really, really insistent. Saul tries to be like, please, let's go to the spa. And then she kind of gets that, what, you think I'm still in danger? You think we're still in danger? And the answer is yes, he does. He is freaked the fuck out. He thinks that they're still in danger. He doesn't want to go to court. And she's like, relax. So she goes to court. And not only does she go to court, but she doesn't actually have a case. She doesn't have enough cases to keep her there. And so she goes to the public defenders and looks for more. She's like, please, I need more cases today. I need stuff to do. Which, quite surprising how much she's going out of her way to stay there. Now, I wasn't sure exactly how to interpret this. I think, from my perspective, that this near-death experience, or this terrifying experience for Kim, sort of gives her, for some reason, makes her want to do good even more. It makes her want to be busier, makes her want to go out and start helping people. As we see towards the end of the episode, it makes her want to take more risks. It because her life kind of start to get put in perspective, where she quit the whole Mercer Verde thing, like after Jimmy's near-death experience. So this is really, these experiences are making her not give a fuck about appearances, really, just wanting to be the person she wants to be, and that is to help people. And so I think she thinks it's a possibility that Lalo could come and kill them, and that's why she wants to go out and help as many people as she can before that happens, that's pretty interesting. Saul, on the other hand, has a totally different reaction, where he's freaked the fuck out. He calls Mike, and Mike is just passive, like, yeah, don't worry about it, whatever. And he's really freaked out, so that's not good enough for him. He tracks Mike down, goes to his house, bangs on the door. Mike's not home, but he comes home, and he's just like, what the fuck are you doing? And that's actually quite brazen of Saul to do that, because he saw what Mike's capable of. He saw Mike just kill a whole shitload of people. So he has the balls to go over there and like bang on his door and yell and make a ruckus when Mike is telling him not to. And he's saying, you gotta tell me. And Mike's like, you're asking for information that you cannot have. Sorry, there's nothing I can do for you. But then he has this human moment where he starts to tear up, and he lets his fear show, like he gets rid of some of the bravado, and it's just like, look, I'm terrified for Kim. I don't want anything to happen to her. And this does. He's being completely honest here. Like, this does get to the heart of his whole motivations for this episode, is that he's not worried for himself as much as he is for Kim, because and just like in the earlier scene, he says, "I'm bad for you," and Kim just dismisses, like, whatever. But he is, like, really freaked out. And Mike says, "Look, I can..." Alright, so Mike is able to relate to him on a human level after he comes clean. It's like, "Look, I can't get into details, but I can tell you that Lalo's gone to Mexico. He's going to be dead by tonight, so don't worry about it." So, Jimmy's all happy now. He thinks that everything's solved, but when he gets back and he tells Kim about it, she seems relieved, like, "Whew, that's the best thing ever." But Saul's not. He's kind of still in a place now. Is kind of wondering what was bringing him down, and when he was being very sort of quiet and purposely spoken and said, "Look, we should just check out of here and go home." He's no longer, "Oh, let's go to the spa, relax, blah, blah, blah." He's now like, let's just go home. And I half expected him to break up with Kim right then and there. I do think that is what he was thinking of. I think at this stage, he thinks he is a terrible thing. For Kim, he blames himself for putting Kim in danger. That his greed, his bravado is what put her in danger, and so he almost wants to get rid of her to keep her safe, and he thinks that she wouldn't be involved in any of this if it wasn't for him. Notice how he completely forgot about the whole Merce Verde thing. Like, he's not fighting about that at all. That's not on his mind. He's just worried for her life. But he doesn't go that far. I do suspect he was considering it. But Kim kind of brushes him off and, like, "Look, I'm hungry, we got no food at home, let's just stay here and get room service." So they get room service, and then Kim tells Jimmy about her little visit for Howard. Now, this happened earlier in the episode where Howard sees Kim in the courthouse and sets her aside and says, "Look, I'm gonna come clean about what Jimmy did. He threw bowling balls at me. He got prostitutes to embarrass me in front of Cliff Maine, and he's out of control." And Kim's just like, whatever. She just laughed in his face, and I think she even said, "Oh, you almost had me going there." But I think, like, she knows that what he's saying is true. She just doesn't give a fuck. But the funny thing about this is that Howard is doing it from the perspective of trying to help Kim, because he heard that Kim has quit Merce Verde, and so she's like, "Oh, you're doing this for Jimmy." It's Jimmy's doing, which is kind of ironic because Jimmy was actually very much against it. And that's when she gets really pissed, because she just sees this as repeated behavior, the way that Howard always kept Jimmy down, always blamed him for everything. In this case, it's kind of true, because it wasn't her quitting Merce Verde. It had nothing to do with Jimmy, yet he still had to blame him for everything. And I like how she just says to him, she's like, "You know who really knew Jimmy? Chuck." Oh, sorry. What's his face? Howard says that to Kim, saying that she doesn't really know, because Kim tried to convince Howard that she knew Jimmy and she knows that he's not responsible for this. But Howard's just like, "Well, you know who really threw Jimmy? Chuck." And that was, I think, the final insult for Kim. I think she found that incredibly insulting, because she knows for a fact that he's blaming him for things he's not responsible for. So, when they go back and they have their nice dinner, Kim confronts Jimmy about the stuff he did to Howard, and he doesn't deny it, and Kim's kind of laughing and all. She's like, thinks it's funny and thinks he deserved more. And then they're like, "Oh, maybe we should do this to Howard. We should shave his head." And then Saul starts joining in. "Oh, we should just put stuff in his shampoo so his hair falls out. Oh, maybe we should just put more chlorine." And they go on and on and on, all the stuff they could do for Howard. In fact, they go past them having sex, and they're still talking about things that they could do to Howard. Now, this is a trend with their relationship, is that when they start scheming about doing grifts or con jobs or whatever, is when Kim gets really turned on. They get more excited, and it's usually when they have passionate sex, and it really attracts her more to Jimmy talking about doing these nasty things. And at the moment, she's really on to doing something nasty to Howard. Now, and eventually she comes to the fact that if they disgraced Howard, did something huge to completely disgrace him, then their HHM and Davis and Main's case against Sandpiper, going all the way back to seasons 1 and 2, would fall apart. And if you recall, Jimmy gets, I believe, a third. He's entitled to a third of the settlement, or a third of the, I don't know, some percentage. It's less than that, but it would still be a considerable amount of money. They said, I think, $2 million. But they didn't think it would be resolved for years. I think there was something in the earlier season where Jimmy was trying to push it through earlier, but it didn't quite happen. But Kim's plan is if they disgrace Howard, that would shame them and to force them into settling the Sandpiper case because they'd be scared that they'd lose it. Which I think it sounds like a really risky plan to me. And they were, joking about, and Saul just thinks, oh, it's all in good humor, all in good fun. But the next morning, Kim's still on it, and she's still saying, look, all we could do with this money, I could open a firm, I could hire these people, and devote the whole time to my pro bono work, and give these, poor people the representation that only rich people are currently getting. Which, it's funny, that's her drive at the moment, but she's willing to ruin a person, and Saul is just like, yeah, but you're not gonna do that. And it's funny because at first he's like, we can't do that, and she just gives him this look, and it's like, what, are you serious? And he's like, okay, we could do that, but we're not going to do that, and because that's not something you could live with. And the way she just laughs it off and like just poo shoots at him, like, I think she's totally on board with doing this. Now, this is getting back to the whole what happens to Kim, which is, it's going to be really huge going into season 6. What happens to Kim? Why is she not in Breaking Bad? Because earlier in this episode, I thought, Jimmy he's going to break up with her. Or at some point, I thought, she's going to do something like crazy that's going to get her arrested or something. But maybe that is the case. Now I'm like so scared for Kim going into season 6. Like, what is she gonna do? But we also have to consider Saul, how he becomes Saul Goodman of Breaking Bad, who doesn't really give a fuck about anyone, who just wants to, is fast talking lawyer who doesn't mind committing any crimes he wants to. So what's going to happen to him? Because at the moment, he's really hesitating for Kim's sake. But maybe they do this job, and that's what pushes them over there. I'm guessing that something happens that make Saul not like Kim anymore. I'm not sure how that could happen, but I don't know. But their relationship, to me, is very obviously on a self-destruct course. I don't know. I very much see that. But that was a very interesting way to end that. Now, let's get to the Lalo stuff. So Lalo drives off with Nacho to Mexico. Obviously, his plan is to introduce Nacho to Don Hilario, and so he can. So he likes him, so Nacho can take over the business up north because you can't really return there, and he has him stay at his house and all that. And that meeting was pretty interesting because Lalo goes out of his way to ingratiate himself to Don Hilario. He gives him a really nice car with money in it, showing how good he is. You could tell his second, I can't remember the guy's name, he doesn't really like Lalo. And that he was really pissed off that the money that Gus gave them was a bit lower than it should be, and you could tell that he's blaming Lalo for this because he even tells Don Hilario, the problem's solved. Now, we heard earlier in this episode Gus talking about his plans to kill Lalo, and of course Mike knew of this. He told Saul about it. And when Mike brings up Nacho, uh, Gus is just like, oh, maybe we can use him. That we have an inside man, so my guys can use him. And so you see them. Nacho gets a phone call saying meet us at, open this gate or meet us out there at 3 a.m. exactly. And that was a pretty freaking intense scene where Nacho's having his late night fireplace chat with Lalo, and you could tell how scared Nacho was and how much he was trying to hide it, how he was trying to act like he was just having a normal conversation, but he knew that guys were coming there to kill Lalo. And it's funny because on the phone he's like, there's women and innocent bystanders here, and the guys just hung up on him. So obviously they didn't care, but what's Nacho gonna do? He can't really do anything about it. So he goes along, he sets a fire to distract Lalo to get him out of the way, and goes and lets the dudes in. Now, this scene, again, super intense, really well shot. Lalo actually manages to get the better of the assassins and kill them. And eventually he finds one of the dudes who's barely alive and gets him to call his middleman, his third party, and tell them that the job is done. And then the episode ends. Come on. What a cruel thing to do to us, the audience, especially if the final season is going to have to be delayed. Now, we're going to have to wait even longer to get a conclusion to this. What happens? So, here's the question I have. Because Lalo says, I know who it was, and I thought it was a really cool scene too when the guy's like, look, I just go through a middleman, I don't know who hired us to kill you, and Lalo's just like, I do. So who did? Now, you could be like, whoa, Mark, you moron, it's Gus, duh. I mean, he talked about it earlier in the episode. Fair, of course. But, my question is that that dude who's the second to Don Ilario, is he involved? Because we know that he was the one responsible for trying to prevent Lalo from getting his bail money, and that he was very much against Lalo and very much for Gus continuing. So, and you can see the way he was like glaring at him when he was at Don Ilario's house, that he still has an issue. So I'm a bit unclear. Was he the one who ordered Lalo to be killed, or did Gus do it, but he was somehow involved? He was okay with this. So when Lalo says, I know who did this, is he talking about Gus, or is he talking about second in command dude? I think more likely he's probably talking about Gus, but I think he knows that second in command dude is involved because of the whole situation with Saul, the car getting shot up, and him kind of knowing that that Saul was lying, or that something else went down, and that his was in danger. I think that that attempt on his life probably confirmed to him, which is going to put Saul in more hot water. Now, bigger thing, which is kind of implied with the way he was glaring at those glasses of liquor that he was drinking with Nacho, is that Nacho betrayed him. The way Nacho was acting all nervous, the way he has just so happened to be awake at 3 a.m., and as soon as he walked off, shortly after those dudes with guns showed up, everyone surrounded him, the innocent bystanders all got killed. Nacho didn't. Nowhere to be found. So, God! How the hell does this fit into Saul and Better Call Saul saying, it wasn't me, it was Ignacio, did Lalo send you here to kill me? So, that implies that both Ignacio and Lalo are still around by that time. Also implies, which, by the way, that time is still a bit of a ways off. Because, and Saul has yet to do his Better Call Saul commercials. He doesn't have the mullet yet. Kim's still around, and his personality hasn't changed as much to get to the point to where it was with Saul Goodman, and he doesn't have that Constitution office. So we still got a ways to go, and Ignacio and Lalo are still going to be alive. So how? It seems like they really want to kill each other. And what? So it seems like Ignacio probably goes into a scheme with Saul to they do something to get back at Lalo, but not kill him because he'll still be alive. And so, as something that Saul thinks if Lalo ever found out, he would send guys to kill him. And he's trying to put the blame on Nacho. So what is it? God damn! I cannot wait for season 6 to tie this all together. So anyway, my rating for Something Unforgivable out of 10, I'm going to give this an 8. Extremely good. Very good character story. Very exciting shoot 'em out scenes at the end that was really suspenseful. Powerful episode. It wasn't as definitive as I was hoping for the season finale. But still great quality. Better Call Saul. Kept it up till the end. So anyway, that is it for my review for the season finale of Better Call Saul, but not the end of my coverage of season 5 of Better Call Saul, because in just a couple days, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be doing a live discussion with Don Willie. We're going to talk about all of season 5 of Better Call Saul, so be sure to check us out, join us in the chat live, or check out the recording afterwards if you like. As we talk about the final season in all its glory. And I also will return in about a week for a full-length review of season 5 of Better Call Saul, so you can check that out. Also check out my channel as I cover many other shows like Star Trek, The Expanse, and more, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that, and thanks a lot for watching.